Hey there API developers, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to take your Django REST Framework API and transform it into an OpenAPI specification using the drf-spectacular library. As a bonus, I'll also show you how you can then take that OpenAPI specification and transform it into a client library for Python and many other major programming languages. So let's get into it. First, I'll start with a basic DRF application and install the drf-spectacular library. This wonderful library will take my API endpoints and annotations and turn them into an OpenAPI specification. I'll first edit the settings file to add the drf-spectacular application, define the default schema class, and add some high-level details about the API such as its name, version, and a short description. Now, let's annotate the project. First, I'll open the views that contains the hello endpoint. This project is simple and only has a single /hello endpoint that responds with a welcome message. First, I'll add annotations. This includes information like human-readable summaries, descriptions, and code examples, as well as request and response formats. Real projects will of course be more complex, but annotation can be done incrementally. LLMs like Google Gemini or ChatGPT can also significantly expedite this process. Remember, you can just focus on annotating in sections and testing your OpenAPI specification as you go. Ultimately, you only need to invest the effort once to create a long-lasting OpenAPI document for your project. Lastly, I'll add in my URLs file to add this hello endpoint to the routes, and I'll also add an additional endpoint that will serve up the OpenAPI specification. And that's really all there is to set up a project to generate an OpenAPI spec. There's plenty of other useful annotations that I haven't covered here, but I'll add some reference links down below to the full set of annotation options available to you. So now, let's try using the OpenAPI specification to automatically generate an SDK for our API so that users can use a native library rather than making raw API calls. I'll start the DRF application in a new terminal and detach it. Then, I'll make a new project directory and initialize it by running Liblab init and passing in the URL to my specification. I'll select Python, but you can also select many other languages as you can see here, including TypeScript, Java, C#, and others. Then I'll name my project. We'll just call it hello-SDK, and I'll choose the GPL license. I'm going to get prompted here to build my project, but I'm going to say no because first I want to set the base URL to point to my local server. In real-world production, you would actually set this URL to point to your production server. Now, to create the SDK, I'll just run Liblab build. This process will validate the spec and then start building the SDKs. It really takes just about 10 seconds. And done. The project is now built. Let's look at the output directory where we can see the generated client library. This Python library is fully built and it's completely ready for me to deploy to PyPy. But for the time being, I'm just going to navigate to the example directory and use it locally. I'll copy over a small bit of sample code that I wrote earlier to show the specific /hello endpoint, and you can see it here on screen. I already started the server earlier, so I'll just run install.sh to install the SDK into this example project, and then I'll activate a virtual environment. This is optional, but it's always a good practice. Finally, I'll run the sample script to make the request. And there we go. We've got the response we expected, and every user of this library will have type completion and documentation as well. And that's really all there is to it. The drf-spectacular library, quite frankly, is a spectacular library to generate an OpenAPI spec from your Django REST Framework project. And you can then take that spec and use it in tooling like Liblab and many other OpenAPI tools out there to benefit both your users and your own API development. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the links down below. I've left some very interesting things down there. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.